We're going to do something different today. I'm going to scour Reddit, and we're going to look at different threads regarding TRT, regarding estrogen, DHT, erections, blood work, like this one. Best TRT protocol, deep dive analysis. This guy's saying, in order to analyze the best testosterone protocol, please rate on a scale from 1 to 10 the following aspects, and then give your protocol, assuming there's like one protocol that fits all. Ooh, this one, Finasteride, side effects, aromatase inhibitor. This is a situation in which Finasteride's giving a guy the classically predictable side effects of ED, among other things, and estrogen is too high because there's impaired conversion of testosterone to DHT. What should you do? What should this guy do? Let's get into this stuff. Advice on TRT cream, test cream. Talk about like a topic that's pretty relevant to all of us, or at least on this channel lately, and some side effects from cream. What do you do? Are these needles too small? The half-inch injection needles, you know, the insulin needles, are they actually good for intramuscular injection or not? I will explain that. Anyone had great results with cream can't tolerate injectables. This happens to people for a variety of reasons. People can't tolerate injectables and cream ends up being better. Let's break all of this down. Sit back. This is going to be an info-packed video. I hope you're ready. We're going to talk about all the relevant discussions regarding TRT that we all need to talk about. All right, before we start the video, look, Cortex Labs, which is my company, is a TRT guidance sexual dysfunction resolution company. Listen, right now for Cyber Week, starting from yesterday, which is Cyber Monday, onward through the week, everything's 50% off. Coaching. Listen, if you need to resolve libido and erection problems on TRT, this is what I do. It is 50% off. The code is on the screen. Cyber50 for Cyber Week. You can book me in under a minute, livecortex.com. We'll get the libido and erection settled. Source list, a complete list of vetted sources for anabolics, including high-potency DHT, including Proviron. Anything that you can think of that you might need is on source list, and it's 50% off right now. Code for that, again, is Cyber50. Look, if you want to get on cream or you're on cream and having problems with libido and erections, just get Mastering Testosterone Cream. We dispel all the myths and give you the protocols that actually work. This is the actual instruction guide, and using testosterone cream is 50% off. Cyber50 is the code. All right, let's start with this one, boys. Best TRT protocol deep dive analysis. So what this person is saying is, hey, check it out. In order to analyze the best testosterone protocol, assuming there is one, please rate on a scale of 1 to 10 the following aspects: erections, libido, sensitivity, sperm volume, sleep, motivation, energy, endurance, recovery rate, water retention. Okay, all of these are pretty relevant. I would say the most relevant ones would be erections, libido, sensation, and then climax sensation, and the time to climax. You know, people will have issues on TRT because the estrogen's too high or the dose is wrong generally, where they can't climax or it takes too long, it takes 30 minutes or something. Nobody actually answered him with doses because they all kind of said what I'm about to say, which is there is no best TRT protocol. Now, there are great protocols for each ester that, assuming you're not using an aromatase inhibitor, will get you in the zone likely, if you're not an over-aromatizer, in the zone of estradiol being in 20 to 35 and enough DHT. But then you got all these weird problems, like where for some folks, I've seen this in coaching, where Cypionate, you know, if they dose it in a way which should get estrogen in range, they'll get the estrogen at 27, but the DHT is far too low, right? There's just less of a conversion of tested DHT with injections for some people, which means they'll never dial in on Cypionate. They've got to use cream. There's all kinds of different protocols on cream that can work for people, but generally, again, the 200 milligram per milliliter stuff is going to skyrocket the test a little too high, and you're going to over-aromatize. Yes, you can over-aromatize on cream. Again, the 100 milligram per milliliter stuff is the way to go. There's no just best protocol. There's general protocols that should work with the target of having E2 in range and high DHT, with functional enough testicles that you don't got to be blasting HCG, and a little bit of neurosteroidal support with DHEA. You dial that in, you're dialed in. Let's look at this one. Latest blood work, too much estrogen, okay? So guy's been on TRT for 5 weeks. That's enough time to reach steady state roughly, or close to it. I started with total T at 377, so that's fucking, 77 nanograms per deciliter above hypogonadal, while estrogen was at 17. Things have been going well. I've kept a good diet, dropped 30 pounds, and I've been focusing on resistance training. But, you know, he doesn't really discuss where libido erections are, which is very relevant here, but he is saying that estrogen is 57. It's about triple from where it was before he started TRT, which is to be expected. Now, like, what would I do here is the main point. So total T's at 977. Listen, if you're at 1,000 total testosterone and you are even an average aromatizer, probably you're going to have too high estrogen. Now, look, just for folks to understand about DIM or diindolylmethane, guy was on 100 milligrams 2 times daily. Did nothing for estradiol. Yeah, listen, you're not going to control estrogen with DIM. I just want to make that clear. This is a classic case. Listen, this guy is either going to have to microdose an aromatase inhibitor, microdose something like masteron or primobolan, right, to get estrogen lower. And if you can't figure that out because there's joint pain, there's loss of libido, maybe there's ED, maybe there's depression when taking aromatase inhibitors because they can unevenly distribute estrogen to the tissues and really fuck you up if the dose is wrong, or even if it's microdosed for some folks, he's going to have to find a fail-safe dose of testosterone that gets the total around 700 so that E2 falls at 30. There, everything's going to be great. You won't have lipids out of whack. You won't have any otherwise side effects. Libido and erections, importantly, are going to be better. Like folks don't have to look much further than the lowest hanging fruit on most problems with TRT, assuming you know those basics of need high DHT, need estrogen in range. If there's too much estrogen, you have two options. You take an AI or DHT derivative, or you fucking lower the dose till you get estrogen in range. Dun, dun, dun. This one. Finasteride side effects. Aromatase inhibitor. Guy goes, so I am on 1 milligram of finasteride. Okay, that's 1 milligram a day. That's the standard prescribed dose for Propecia or finasteride. And got high estrogen sides like gyno, low libido, and softer erections. Would a small dose of aromasin get rid of these sides? And how toxic is it long term? Would TRT help if free testosterone is too low? So this is a guy that looks like he is not on TRT. So number one mistake, taking a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, which is what finasteride is. Blocks the conversion of testosterone to DHT at a significant percentage. DHT is what makes you a man, makes you masculine, fuels the endothelium of your penis in order to fire nitric oxide and erections. DHT suppresses prolactin, optimizes dopamine signaling for libido, binds to androgen receptors with a high affinity for a longer period of time than testosterone, contributing, of course, to erections, libido. You block that hormone, you're going to run into exactly, I mean, this is sort of the crux of the issue with people with PFS, you know, who've taken curcumin, even other 5-alpha reductase inhibitors. The problem is under reduction of test to DHT and over conversion of testosterone to estradiol. And of course, you would have low libido, softer erections when you're doing that. The male body is not intended in terms of functional erections and functional libido to be under-converting to DHT and over-converting to estradiol. That's, in fact, the recipe for ED, a numbing of the penis, a loss of sensation, and a loss of libido. If you want to do that, just block DHT. Now, like some of you might think, and people kind of have this myth in their heads that like if they want to take a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, just go on TRT. Well, if the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor is blocking the conversion to DHT, it doesn't matter. Right? If you're on TRT or you're natty, sure, you'll have a little more substrate to ultimately convert a little bit more to DHT because 5-alpha reductase inhibitors don't block it completely, although they do a substantial percentage, but you're still going to get a disproportionate ratio of estrogen to DHT. So no, you can't just run a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor because you're worried about your hair or whatever, and then just take TRT and expect that that's going to fix the problem. That is a fucking myth, and you're still going to end up with ED and libido problems. Listen, this guy might not be that far in. So you know what the solution is? It would actually be multifold. It would be number one, first and foremost, fucking remove the finasteride. Listen, a guy's got to make a decision on this, and the guys that are post, you know, taking 5-alpha reductase inhibitor, they've already come to this conclusion. It's my dick or my hair. You know, what do I want more? My libido, my sex drive, my erection quality, my morning wood, the health of the penis, or my masculinity, my facial hair growth, or do I want my hair? Like, do I want to look like a cool, snazzy fucking Chad with a broken dick? You know, or do I want to maybe have a crew cut with a beard and get in shape and still be attractive by ladies, but also be able to use your penis? So that's number one. Get off the 5-alpha reductase inhibitor. In these cases, if you're starved of DHT, you need DHT. So number 2 would be absolutely get on testosterone. And in most cases, not all, because I've seen, PFS cases work out of using long esters, using prop. But in most cases, right, a disproportionate amount of the time, people are going to do better with something that converts more to DHT, which would be test cream. So number 1, remove the finasteride. Number 2, start dosing test cream with a little bit of HCG and a little bit of DHA. Good starting dose, 100 milligram per milliliter cream, 5 pumps a day on the scrotum. 200 IU HCG, 20 milligrams DHA, run estradiol after 4 weeks. Adjust from there, probably in lowering the HCG dose. The estrogen's too high. But boys, I mean, again, lowest hanging fruit. Finasteride side effects, aromatase inhibitor. Guy is having high estrogen sides like gyno, low libido, and softer erections. The answer is really clear. You don't want to underconvert to DHT and overconvert to estradiol. That's the recipe for this shit. Get off the fucking finasteride, get on test cream. Advice on TRT cream in some sides. I haven't even read this yet, so I just want to look at it. Been on TRT cream VersaBase, 150 milligrams for about 3 weeks, applying twice a day. Okay, so how much? I really don't even know how many clicks that is. I'm feeling great. My libido is high. More energy, and overall feeling super. Feeling super, boys. I'm in the early days. It's only 3 weeks, but recently in the night, I've been getting some heart palps, okay, and a bit of pressure. I'm wondering if it's to do with hormone change or my blood is thickening a little bit. Well, could be either. Anyone had this on TRT, does it go away? All right, so what we're really dealing with here is a pretty significant peak. Again, we don't really know how many clicks of this 150 milligrams he's doing. It could be 1 click twice a day. It could be 2 clicks twice a day, which is the common prescription for test cream, which really usually doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Libido is up. Doesn't seem to say that he's having any issues with erections. Let's just assume that they're okay. Probably you need to look at hematocrit in this case. Look at your blood pressure. If either of those are high, you need to start doing something to manage them, whether it's reducing salt on the blood pressure side or taking an Naringin to lower hematocrit. But, at the same time, this is another problem with applying twice a day with cream. You want to peak and trough. Okay, a natty male regarding testosterone, it shoots up in the morning. If you look at the graphs, man, it really does start to trough, and it troughs pretty significantly overnight, and then it peaks again in the morning. You can have a fluctuation of 400 to 500 nanograms per deciliter as a natty. But natties have functional everything, erections work great, sensation. They don't have any of these weird problems, no climax problems, no libido problems, generally speaking. You apply it twice a day, you never get a trough. Estrogen, therefore, can't come down. You get a longer area under the curve of test aromatizing to estradiol, which equals more cumulative estrogen in the blood and the tissues. And you can run into problems like this, where you have heart palps and potentially elevated hematocrit, potentially elevated blood pressure. Yeah, listen, in most cases, I don't want to make blanket statements. You just don't want steady state hormones, okay? Your body's not equipped to deal with that. It is not meant to deal with that. We do not, as men, as natural men regarding testosterone, have steady state fucking hormones. We fluctuate, man. We peak and then we trough. That is what you want. Guaranteed that'd probably fix the issue. Okay, if libido erections are fine, stop applying twice a day. Stop doing that. It's way less convenient. So if you apply cream just in the morning, it's fucking way easier. You don't have to worry about doing anything later on. You feel phenomenal if the dose is right all day, and then you start getting tired at night as you usually would, right? That's okay. I've been steady state on TRT before, in the beginning, and then also running cycles, and I was wired all fucking day. I still was able to sleep, but at 10 o'clock, it's like I didn't have a turn off switch. I didn't start getting tired. I just managed to go to sleep. Guys, Mastering Testosterone Cream course clears up all these BS myths about cream. Please get it if you're using cream. Let's talk about the half-inch needles. This is a pretty common topic on TRT. Listen, half-inch needles, this is the bottom line. If you're trying to inject intramuscularly, you are somewhat likely some of the time, if you are pretty lean, to get it into the very outer layer of your muscle with a half-inch needle. Now, that outer layer of the muscle, assuming it's not a deep IM injection or a deep enough IM injection, is probably you're going to have less access, I should say, to blood vessels. So the time with which it takes to actually get that testosterone circulating in the system is going to be slower, which means ultimately a longer aromatization curve or area under the curve attached to estradiol. So it generally isn't optimal. But like, aside from that, some good bit of the time, half-inch needles, insulin needles, are not really getting it into the muscle. If you want to do an intramuscular injection, do a fucking intramuscular injection, okay? Don't do a shallow intramuscular injection. You're not trying to get the tip of the muscle. You want to go deep where the blood vessels are. If you don't want to inject with a 1 inch or 1.5 inch needle, which if you're injecting infrequently, you should definitely do that. But if you're doing it more frequently, use a 5/8 inch needle. There is an in-between. It's almost an inch. It's 5/8 inch. But these are insulin syringes, and you can find them on Amazon, okay? Go search for those. Everybody doing TRT, injecting, needles, if you don't like the bigger needles because it's a little dull pain or whatever, and you feel a little fucking weird about it, maybe you get a little squirrely injecting yourself with big needles, get the 5/8 inch needle, right? It's much better. And it will deliver deep enough into the muscle tissue to hit the blood vessels to get that test into systemic circulation better. I am not a fan of the 1.5 inch needles. You can use them for injecting HCG because that's a sub-Q injection. Totally fine. When it comes to TRT, you want to take this seriously. Get it into the muscle. Get it into the blood vessels. At least use a 5/8 inch needle. Last one, boys. Anyone had good results with creams? Can't tolerate injectables. That's not new. Wonder why. Long story short, I started TRT 2 weeks ago. 120 milligrams sub-Q. I have MCAS, so that's mast cell activation syndrome, and I've been reacting systemically to the carrier oils. Maybe not. Yesterday, I tried cottonseed oil, nearly put me in the hospital. Now I have to wait for this to be out of my system. I'm in the UK and can't get compounded injectables, which is annoying. The only carrier left is to try olive oil. But after last night, I'm reluctant. Anyway, because of the above, I'm considering switching to compounded cream. Yes, this would probably help. I'm keen to hear if you've had good results, been able to maintain stable high levels throughout treatment. Okay, number one, you don't want to maintain stable high levels of testosterone. You want your DHT to be pretty high most of the time. But again, you want to trough. There is something to say about whether it's the fucking carrier oil or whether it's just the constant slow release of testosterone, from which you never get any refuge, that potentially that causes these sorts of side effects when your body's not used to doing that. So if you get side effects from doing that, it kind of makes sense. Whatever the mechanism, your body's not used to that shit. At the same time, this is a sub-Q injection. So there's so many different things you can do here. Plenty of people, man, I got turned on to this through coaching and I had to go and talk about it. This is years ago on our channel here. Have all kinds of side effects when they inject subcutaneously with testosterone. Whether it's head pressure or fucking high blood pressure or headaches, obviously libido and erection problems. That's the first and foremost things that happen when people inject sub-Q and the dose isn't right and they're just not metabolizing it correctly. I really don't think, even though some studies have said it's okay because the blood levels, show that it's actually working, that sub-Q is a viable route, it's made to inject into the muscle. Put it in the muscle. Bottom line is like the norms. I have broken down so many, what I hope to be and what I think are useful nuggets for folks to take away on TRT. I mean, the clinics aren't really guiding people in the right direction to dial in successfully. And regarding libido and erections, doctors and even consultants at clinics sort of see testosterone as a medicine. Right? They're not interested in the dynamics of what's happening kind of at the 5,000-foot view, libido, erections, no morning wood, like sensation dropping. They just see testosterone deficiency. We're going to fix that by giving you testosterone. The dialing in comes from all the stuff that I've talked about in this video and many more of the things that I've talked about throughout all the content in our video that you guys got to take heed to. All right, look, as I said in the beginning, guys, for Cyber Week, all of our TRT products are 50% off. That includes coaching. Listen, if you need to book me to resolve libido and erection problems on TRT, this is the time to do it. There is no better time. Coupon code CYBER50 saves you 50% off on sexual dysfunction, libido optimization, erection optimization programs. You're working directly with me. We're creating protocols. I'm listening to your feedback. We're adjusting along the way. You've got all of my expertise. You've got my ears. Importantly, you have resolution of your erection, libido, sensation, and climax problems on TRT or from the use of hair loss drugs. 50% off. Book me in under a minute. We got on the fact-finding call within a day. Cyber50 is the code. Source list. Listen, sometimes you just have to go around the clinics. You got to get what you need. DHT specifically, that high potency stuff dials people in. But look, you might need Proviron, you might need Masteron, you might need Primo, you might need test of a different ester, something like Test Prop. Just get sourceless. It is 50% off right now. The code for that is Cyber50. Cyber Week, everything's 50% off, including Mastering Testosterone Cream. Look, this is the God guide for using cream to dial in libido and erections. Okay, I put a lot of time into it. It's only the protocols that work, and it shows you, importantly, what not to do. Because a lot of people that are having problems on cream with libido and erections is because they're following shitty advice on how to actually dose the stuff. Everything that actually works for libido and erections with test cream in this course, 50% off livecortex.com. Lastly, if you need to dial in on Cypionate, I created a course for that too, specifically for dialing in libido and erections. It's called Mastering Testosterone Cypionate, 50% off. Code for that is Cyber50. Links and codes in the description. We've reached the conclusion of the video. Now we're at the final point. Thanks so much for watching. Yeah, like the video. We're building subs, and we really just need to build. God, can't even think. Hold on. Wrong with this chair? God, there we go. Damn it. Sorry you had to see that. All right, yeah, like I said, like the video, please. Honestly, makes a big difference. We are growing rapidly, so I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Got the mic again. Just put a post-it note just on my monitor here. Grab the mic. Let me just get it. Just get the mic real quick here. Just I can find it. Why is this? Give me this! God. Why? We're done here. Thanks for watching, boys. I hope you've had a great week so far. Please like the video. Yes, it really does make a difference. If you could just hit the like button, it means the world to me. It's free to do. It actually does help our channel get out to people who need to be seeing this content. Sub. Yeah, dude, if you liked anything that we talked about, there's so much more content in the past and much more content coming in forever in the time continue. I'd love to have you on board. Otherwise, kick-ass rock on. Cyber Week specials. Again, Cyber50 takes 50% off. Everything's the biggest sale we've ever run. Please take advantage of it. And I'll talk to you boys on the next one.